I was stunned a moment ago, Mr. Chairman, when perhaps I misunderstood you. I hope I did. I thought I heard you suggesting that Justice Alito had somehow been deceptive or dishonest in his testimony before the committee. I remember when he gave that testimony, and as you recited it now, he was correctly characterizing the standard under stare decisis. Stare decisis, of course, we have to remember, is not an inexorable command. Far from it. First, dealing with diminished standards of deference to stare decisis, to precedent, when we're dealing with the provision of the Constitution. Stare decisis takes generally the approach that it's better to have things settled than settled right. Now, that's the general principle. But it has limits. One of those limits is that, it's one thing to follow precedent when you're interpreting a statute. A statute can be changed. The Constitution can't be changed except under the very rigorous standards outlined by the Constitution, and that's why it's difficult. It's intentionally difficult. That's also why we give diminished deference to precedent under the doctrine of stare decisis when it comes to a provision of the Constitution. That's just the beginning of the analysis. The rest of it looks at a number of factors, including the nature of the error, the quality of the reasoning that went into it, looking at the workability of the rules, the extent to which the doctrine at issue is proven workable and judicially manageable as a standard, and the extent to which the standard at issue has brought about disruption in various aspects of our legal system, and of course the nature and extent of the reliance and what would happen in its absence. When you look at each of those standards here, it's not at all, it's actually quite difficult to defend Roe. And the fact that you're having to rely on stare decisis to begin with says something about the fact that it's hard to defend Roe as an original matter, hard to defend Roe, it's impossible to defend Roe as a textual matter. There's nothing deceptive about saying that Roe, being precedent, is entitled to respect. That's the whole point of the doctrine of stare decisis. The fact that the doctrine dictates that precedent be given due respect is not the end of the analysis. It states the reason for the analysis. I think it's unfortunate to denigrate the character and truthfulness of one of the most honest, decent human beings ever to serve in the federal judiciary and on the Supreme Court of the United States. I think before we denigrate them, we need to stop and consider what effect that might have on others. But more to the point here, I'd hope you'd stop and consider the fact that nothing in his answers that proved untruthful. Look, Roe versus Wade has been around for 48 years, nearly my entire life. I don't like it. I don't like it as a matter of policy, but more importantly, I find it repugnant as a matter of constitutional interpretation. It is wrong. And the opinion that's been leaked of Justice Alito is correct. I challenge anyone in this room to refute its accuracy on stare decisis and on the merits themselves. It's absolutely correct. And Roe versus Wade was wrong. It flies in the face not only of the text of the Constitution, but also the structure of the Constitution. Hundreds of years of American and English legal precedent. It's wrong. Notwithstanding it being wrong, it's been in place for nearly my entire life. And at no point have I ever denigrated the Supreme Court of the United States or publicly attacked its credibility, for the simple reason that as a lawyer and officer of the court, as a member of the bar, it's my duty to not do that. As one who has sworn an oath to uphold, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, it's my duty to not do that. Moreover, our federal judicial system, warts and all, mistakes and all, is the envy of the world. There is no judicial system like unto it anywhere in the world. It's been a key source of our strength as a country. This is a place where the rule of law prevails. So, notwithstanding the fact that I strongly have disagreed with Roe versus Wade, with a number of other decisions the Supreme Court has rendered, I do regard this as it's not a bad court that sometimes makes good decisions. It's an amazing court that sometimes gets it wrong. To suggest, moreover, as you have today, and as many of our Democratic colleagues have in recent days, to suggest somehow that the Supreme Court, once it renders a decision, is forever barred from reconsidering that decision is wrong. We've already heard mentioned today the fact that we're all fortunate that the Supreme Court was willing to recognize it had gotten things wrong in Plessy versus Ferguson, when it revisited the issue and corrected the error in Brown versus Board of Education. But there are countless other circumstances where that's happened, where that's been necessary, and the Republic has moved on. 32 years elapsed between the moment the Supreme Court of the United States stepped over its bounds and improperly invalidated a state law, a New York state law protecting bakery employees in Lochner versus New York. 32 years later, took 32 years during which there were lots of other bad decisions, inconsistent decisions, decisions not rooted in the Constitution itself and contrary to the structure and history of the Constitution, but rooted instead in judicial political activism, this time conservative judicial political activism. Thank heaven above that in 1937, 32 years after the original error in Lochner versus New York, the Supreme Court corrected that error in West Coast Hotel versus Parrish. Surely, Mr. Chairman, you would not be suggesting that it would be wrong for the Supreme Court of the United States to reverse itself if it had the unfortunate occasion to have to address something as horrific as the arguments the Supreme Court embraced in Korematsu. Look, we've got to tread very carefully. We could lose what we have built up. A lot of us have put up for a very long time with decision-making that was wrong. Not just, and I'm not speaking morally here, although it is also that. Wrong legally, wrong constitutionally, wrong as a matter of policy and as a matter of constitutional structure. We have put up with that and still acknowledge the legitimacy of the court. We're treading into dangerous territory. Don't do that. Don't threaten and intimidate the Supreme Court of the United States. And make no mistake, that was the point of this leak. I don't know who did it for sure, but I'd bet money, and I'm not even a betting man, I'd bet money that this was done for the purpose of denigrating and delegitimizing and embarrassing and isolating those members of the Supreme Court of the United States planning on joining Justice Alito's opinion.
Senator, could you wrap up your remarks? We have a couple others who are seeking recognition. And
yeah, look, I'd be happy to. I didn't come this morning planning on addressing this. I walked in and I heard you denigrating Justice Alito and Justice Thomas and Justice Kavanaugh, Justice Barrett, and Justice Gorsuch. This is not something I can just ignore. So I appreciate your desire to stick to the program. I would love to have stuck to the program today. The Supreme Court would have loved to have stuck to the program. The justices on the Supreme Court, who happen to have been appointed by Republicans, would love to have stuck to the program and not had their addresses publicly disclosed, with individuals being encouraged to go to their house and protest, something that has no place in our republic. You go to the home of a public official to protest, that is an implicit threat. You show up where someone sleeps and raises children. That's an implicit threat of physical violence. We deserve better than this. And I hope that each of my colleagues on this committee, regardless of their party affiliation or their position on Roe versus Wade, will condemn these actions and will condemn and distance themselves from any and all actions to threaten, intimidate, harass, or delegitimize the court itself or those justices thought to be joining this opinion. Thank you.